or young adult as a parent. Welcome to our podcast. Guided by the philosophy it takes a village to raise a child, I, Shoni, a youth pastor for over 9 years, will be interviewing various topical experts who can help parents and caregivers better understand and respond to the unique needs of Gen Z, also known as AMA 2000. Remember to follow us on our social media pages and turn on notifications in order to stay up to date with new episodes and other resources. Now, with that conscious decision comes boundaries, and you touch on that at some point you negotiated your time, even at work, to say on a Friday, I am with my daughter.
Yeah.
How have you managed that in terms of boundaries at work, boundaries with friends? You know, I'm like, as a young person myself, I'm a father. You know, these relationships I've lost because I now cannot hang around as regular. You know, I'm no longer that guy that can hang around every weekend because I want to be with my son at the time. How have you managed the issue of boundaries?
Look, those who respect you and love you will understand the boundaries that you put in place. I've had to speak to my boss when I had a boss to say, hey, this thing of Friday, you calling me on the 11th hour that I must do certain tasks, it can't work. Yeah. And I think that's another thing. If you want to be there, because you can have your child here for the sake of compliance, but if you don't enjoy spending time with your child and spending time with yourself, it becomes such a tantamount task to be doing.
100%.
I do it easily. Like literally, I'm trying to have conversations with the mother. Can I stay full time with her? Because it happens with so ease. I enjoy it. And also with relationships, when I broke up with her mother, then you start having to look for another relationship and so on. And you just tell a lady, Mamela, 2 weekends of my life are confirmed. They are my daughters.
Sure.
If you can't accommodate that, then tough luck. It's not even open for conversations and so on. This is Bongane. Bongane is a father. I'm co-parenting with the mother of my child, and because of this, they're on the other side of town and I stay on the other side of town. 2 weekends are confirmed to be mine. And school holidays are confirmed to be mine. So when you get into this bus, you must know that it's not going to Gracepoint, it's going to Midrand Waterfall.
Sure.
If you are comfortable with that, then cool.
Hello and welcome to another episode of It Takes a Village. If you have not seen some of the episodes we have produced in the past on mental health, identity, Gen Z, and purpose, I encourage you to head onto our website or our different platforms and check those out. A gift to the family space. Today, we're going to be speaking about fathers. We recently celebrated Father's Day. It's always great as a community to pause and acknowledge the role of fathers in our community, but also to reflect on how we can grow as a community in encouraging young men to be better fathers, but also encouraging fathers to be more present and to continue doing the amazing stuff that they do for our families and community at large. To explore this conversation, I am joined by Bongane today, who is an author and does a whole lot of amazing stuff. A confession, I was quite shocked when I realized that you're only a year older than I am. I think because they often say I'm an emoji, I don't have much beard, I don't have much facial hair as you do. So I had made assumptions that, you're probably 3-4 years, but you've done amazing stuff, bro.
Thank you
and
very much.
I will allow you to introduce yourself right now and maybe just share about some of the stuff you're doing and the foundation that you lead.
Thank you very much, Loni. And it's an honor for me to be here. Really appreciate the invitation. As you have said, I'm not longer that young, but people get shocked. I'm 34 years of age. I'm a leap year baby. I'm a father to one beautiful daughter. She's 8 years of age. She grows too fast. And things that she says now, I'm like, I think we've arrived at... You're showing me flames, and 8 years has gone so fast, and I've been enjoying the journey. I think there's nothing as beautiful as being a father, and I wouldn't trade it for anything. I think I can do it as a full-time job. If Cyril could say, fathers come and pick up a paycheck for being full-time fathers, and just focus on that and leave many other things. But I'm an entrepreneur as well. I manufacture school shoes. I've got a shoe line called School La Shushu, and School La Shushu is basically a lingo. Our old timers, when they were wearing Sexon and Flosham, it was a good quality shoe. So for them to say you're wearing a La shoe, you had to be wearing a Flosham or a Sexon because of it was of good leather quality. It was quite expensive. So not any person would buy it. So because of we are thriving to be a strong, school shoe of choice that competes with well-known brands, for us it was that befitting name, and also looking at the story that I've just reflected a bit. But also I run a foundation called Cool Dads Foundation, where we're mobilizing young fathers. And I always say young fathers, maybe until I get off the 35-year bracket, and I'm like, we're
It's just
mobilizing
fathers.
fathers now, but we cut across because of we have many lessons that we learn from older fathers, but also they have got lessons that they learn from us. I've got a number of fathers whom I've formed relationships with since the beginning of the foundation who say, I was afraid to confront situations. I've been married and I've got kids outside, so this marriage came after, and I didn't want to cause turmoil in the house, But I think through your conversations on different, media platforms, I've realized that I need to really confront the situation, and they've now tried to integrate their families. So also relate with fathers that are, of the age of my own father. So not only do we, I think it's quite open, not only to young fathers. And next year we're celebrating 10 years of the foundation. That's why I'm saying time moves fast. I'm also shocked that my daughter is 8. So yeah. So in the foundation, we've got 5 focus areas. One is called interactions. Many fathers don't know what to do with their kids. That's why I would use the term I'm babysitting, because you're not sure what is it that you're supposed to do with these little
Like you've
ones.
been outsourced, eh? You're babysitting like you've been outsourced, and
Yes, and I think people try to be mean and like, you can't say you're babysitting. But I think until we really understand the concept of fatherhood and what role we're supposed to play, then it becomes a different, narrative. So we've got something we called interactions, where we gather as fathers and kids only. We don't allow women. So we do picnics, we do camps, we do dates, we do art and painting. So fathers paint with their kids. It's just for us to have this thing grilled in our mind that you can spend time in the house with your kids. You can spend time with your kids just outside of your house playing, kicking the ball around, combining plastics. When we grew up, we didn't have soccer balls. We took plastics and made a ball out of it. So you don't need to have money for you to really interact and spend time with your kids. The second program is called empowerment, where we do workshops and seminars for fathers, and we even gave birth to something called frank conversations, where we're having dialogues amongst ourselves. We've spoken about issues of GBV, what's hurting men, why are we hurting women, why are we hurting our children, topics like ilobolo, intlaulo, issues of investment, issues of religion, how it influences. So we're trying to impart some type of knowledge, into the holistic view of a man, even before you are a father. So with empowerment, we look at different thematic issues that would address. COVID became a little bit bad, and now we had to move to virtual. Then virtual sometimes it disconnects us and so on. But empowerment focuses on developing a black man, basically.
and maybe for people that are at home who do not know what inklaulo is, do you just want to maybe explain that?
It's what we call it damage, when you have fathered a child with somebody that you're not married to. So the family would have a conversation with your family, and they will agree on an amount that you should pay as damages or as a fine for impregnating their daughter before you are married to their daughter. Then the third program is called Big Brother Mentorship. We've been having 50 boys that we are mentoring in the Far East, working with schools in Springs, in Brakpan, Gelekstad, in Kwatema, where I come from, and also not Alra Park, which is the other side of Nigeria. So we've identified schools and also 2 homes where which are orphanages. So we've got boys that come from there. So once a month we'll meet with them, take them through thematic, issues, whether it's substance abuse, career development, exposure as well, because exposure would take them whether to movies, ice skating, would do hiking with Tabang Klaba Foundation. They'll facilitate conversations. Because I think one time when we did a workshop on, career paths, I invited a couple of friends. And I remember one friend of mine who was working for SAA back then. He came, and after he finished his talk, he had to rush and go to work. And he's like, "I love you, man." And I was like, "No, thank you very much for coming. I love you too." And we hugged. And the boys were like, "No, yo, no. How do this guy, you know?" And they're like, "No, men don't hug. Men don't tell each other." And I was like, "Hey," to the team, I was like, "Guys, make sure that the next session we invite Love Life or any relevant stakeholder. Boys need to start talking about their emotions, and they need to understand that there's nothing wrong in telling your brothers that you love them." And really, for me, I took it back to an incident we had when we had a gala dinner. Fundraising gala dinner. We invited one table because of one person sponsored, and we had a table, and I was like, "Let's bring these boys to the gala dinner." These boys came, and most of them were from the orphanage because I think it was easier to fetch them in the evening and take them to one particular place. So we had 9 black boys or African boys, and we had 1 white boy. And in that session, so I think the team made a mistake of leaving wine in that table because I think we had not identified which table they're going to sit at. So later on, Reverend Nongwindla has also been part and parcel of the Kuldas Foundation even before he went to the seminary. So he then picked it up and said, "Hey guys, we've left wine in that table." And I think he found them when they were about to open the wine. So this young man is Jonah, he's white. So I don't know who poured, but when they were being stopped and I went there to go and ask them, who said you must consume or pour the wine? And all of the African boys were just shying away, not sure how to answer. And Jonah said, "I'm used to having a glass of wine at home when we have a meal for dinner. So I didn't think there's anything wrong. I'm sorry." And I said to the guys, I think we have a challenge with an African black man who doesn't know how to express themselves. They might know how they feel, but we have not had a space to ventilate. So that's why 9 boys would not find courage, just one of them, to say, "No, we did a mistake, we're sorry about this, or we're doing it because of 1, 2, 3. Because remember that I always say to people, a reason is a reason. It doesn't mean the reason is right or wrong, but it's a reason. You know, the worst thing I can say, a rapist can give you a reason why they've raped. It doesn't mean that they are right nor wrong, but it's a what? It's a reason. I can be late for this interview and I can give you the reason why I'm late. It doesn't mean it's right or wrong, but it's a reason. You know? So I'm saying none of the boys on that table were willing to give a reason of why they were willing to pick up a glass and consume it. And neither were the boys at that session after I had hugged a friend and said I love them and I appreciate that they came to give an input in this workshop, and they must, very well as they leave for work. And the boys gave the reaction that they gave. And I said, "But why?" And they couldn't explain why they think it's wrong for me to hug my friend, my brother, and tell him I love him. And for me, it then says that black African men do not know how to express themselves. And it could be one of the reasons, the center reasons of why our society is the way it is. And somebody else might say it's an excuse, but it's a reason. So we do have Big Brother mentorship. We mentor these boys. We meet once a month. We take them through different thematic issues. We also expose them to different spaces. We do hiking. They go and reflect on the mountain without imposing any religion to them. We have them conversed, with people who know how to facilitate conversations. Then we also have what we call, it's still called a clothing and toy bank. And the idea around it was, let's have, there are fathers who are unemployed, and reality is that each and every quarter we're getting unemployment statistics that say people are unemployed. They're increasing day and night. So which means you've got fathers who would not be able to provide for their kids. And unfortunately, a man is only a man by provision. That's what we're taught. And that's why many people will rather be fending for resources outside and bring them to the house than rather being present in their own homes, whether to their partners or to their kids, because of manhood has been defined as your ability of providing. So we then said, let's collect, because I saw my daughter was just growing quite fast, and clothes, that you bought 2 months ago, they no longer fit her because she just keeps on growing, and they're still in good condition. And if I was quite fast in making more babies, then my babies would have inherited.
At least they would have been, yes.
And then you also have toys, that
Yeah.
she was using when she was an infant, when she was a toddler, and. So I said, whenever we gather, men who are unemployed, you can just come in, identify a few items. But I think our pride and our ego was just standing in the way. So now we ended up having a lot of clothes that were not being collected and so on. So we ended up taking them to home. So I was like, this thing is not working, this clothing and toy bank thing. And I was like, okay, let's mobilize school shoes. And so we started calling people and saying, can they donate money or bring school shoes? Let's donate school shoes to different schools. And that grew, I think 1 year we donated almost 5,000 pairs of shoes, because also we would host an event and ask DJ friends to come with DJ's Boo, Questa back then, we'll come. Then I say the entrance fee is a box of school shoes, or you can pay 200 or 300 rands at the door. And 1 year, I'm saying we almost had about 4.8 school shoes that were distributed in the East. Actually, that's where I birthed my business of school shoes.
I was actually curious. You saw a market, you're like, no, man.
No, definitely. You've got 12 million learners in South Africa. 12 million learners in South Africa. And you've got above 2.8 million children who walk to school barefoot, or who are having one pair of shoes. Either it's a shoe that they wear when they come to church, and then they also wear it when they go to school, and so on. Probably it's cracked, it's opened, and so on. So they're in that range of that 2.8 million. I'm sure now it should be above 3 million, because the stats I'm talking about should be around 2017. So it's an active market. So I saw the opportunity from there to say, actually, there is a market here, and if it's 5,000 pairs of shoes, how much have I taken to this shop or that shop, and so on. So then the last one, we do advocacy and lobbying. We help a lot of guys who want access to their children. We also assist women who want to be facilitated, a conversation between themselves and the fathers of their children. But also we're trying to tap into, the legal frameworks, mothers being the only ones labeled in a Children's Act as, the primary caregivers. Does that mean I'm not capable as a man to be the primary caregiver for my daughter? So we do advocacy and lobbying just to ensure that there is a conducive environment for kids to grow up, but also there's a good space for men to participate in their children's lives without giving, excuses of why they are not there. So basically that is what the foundation does. And so that's just me.
And Kamo, you're an author, and you're an author at the same time.
So no, not yet. I don't want to claim yet that I've compiled a book. So next year or the other year when I release my own book, because I've not. My chapter is a summary version of my book.
Okay.
Not even a summary, but one element of the book.
Okay.
So I still have a book that reflects on fatherhood, my journey with my father, with my stepfathers, with the fathers that I've met at church, fathers I've met at school, because I was fathered by those people. Before I was fathered by my stepfather, I grew up in a home where, it was surrounded by women, my great-grandmother, my grandmother, my mother, my aunts. So that book is still coming, that I can try and claim the title.
Okay,
author.
all right. So
for now, I'll say I'm a coordinator of a book,
Sure.
But yes, we've just put in together and released a book called A Father, a Stranger. We launched it on Father's Day. And I think for us it was quite a symbolic thing to launch the book on Father's Day. Many people were saying, but people can't come. I said, those who come. Those who don't come, it's okay. We'll still have spaces to engage. But for me, it's quite symbolic for us to launch it on this particular day. And I think for the past 6 years, with SABC News, we would have to address the nation about the importance of fatherhood. And so I always say to my friends, Gary, you must not take me for granted. It's only the president and myself who address the nation.
Okay.
State of the Nation address,
Sure.
State of Fatherhood address.
Well, and it sounds like you are very busy. No, and this is where I become curious. So you are very busy. How on earth do you manage to be present in your daughter's life? Because the sense I got, obviously, from reading the chapter, man, an amazing book. I had my copy somewhere here, but an amazing book. And you've interviewed amazing people, and I'm thinking to myself, hey, this guy got an opportunity to sit with a former president. That's like, but you are busy. You've got a lot of things happening in your life. And we all know that for anyone who reads this book will know that you are present in your daughter's life. How do you manage to hold that space?
I think it's a conscious decision. If you're conscious about it, you will then make time for. I think some people say when we want to insult each other on social media, like the person makes time for the most important things in their lives. Sure. When women and men try to fight.
Yeah.
So we throw that line. But for me, I think two things. One, you do make time in the busiest of times. You do make time for what matters the most to you. Number two, because of what I have gone through, I have been longing, seeking, wanting, praying for the attention of the men that gave birth. I mean, who gave the seed for me to be here. And through that journey until Loiso was born when I was 26, if I'm not mistaken. And for the 26 years of my life, I've never received that from my father. So for me, it is a conscious reminder that I don't have to allow my daughter to go through the same journey that I went through, of having to beg for the attention of your father, just to be recognized, just to be seen.
Sure.
And at quite an early age, I introduced Fridays are date Fridays for me and my daughter.
Yes.
So whether and when I say dates, nothing sophisticated, it's nothing renowned or profound. No. On Friday, I don't take her to school Monday to Thursday. On every day of your life, I don't take her to school. But on Fridays, I'm going to take time off and go and pick her up at school. And either we're going to go and see, if it's not my weekend with her, then I'm going to go and see either my mother or we'll go and eat lunch. And then if it's not my weekend, then I'll take her back to her mother. If it's our weekend, then we'll go and see my parents. We'll go out if we want to go out. And then we'll then go home and spend the weekend together. But I've tried to ensure that Fridays, I consistently go and fetch my daughter from school.
Sure.
If I can't fetch her from school, then I must collect her at her grandmother's house or at her mother's house later that day. It's not as consistent. I can say out of 10, at least I can give myself a 7, And also, as she grows up, it's important for me to communicate with her and say, look, Daddy can't come and do this, so this is the time we'll do it. Because of life, it as well does gravitate, towards certain things, and then you must choose and say, okay, what do I do? So I try and find that balance, but most of my time, Fridays, I try and dedicate that to my daughter, and I've got 2 weekends a month with her, and where possible, I even fetch her for more. But it's that conscious decision of saying, I want to be there.
But now, with that conscious decision comes boundaries. And you touch on that at some point you negotiated your time, even at work, to say on a Friday, I am with my daughter.
Yeah.
How have you managed that in terms of boundaries at work, boundaries with friends? I'm like, as a young person myself, I'm a father. These relationships I've lost because I now cannot hang around as regular. I'm no longer that guy that can hang around every weekend because I want to be with my son at the time. How have you managed the issue of boundaries?
Look, those who respect you and love you will understand the boundaries that you put in place. I've had to speak to my boss when I had a boss to say, hey, this thing of Friday, you calling me on the 11th hour that I must do certain tasks, it can't work. And also, I think for the longest of time, I've always admired, it's not a racial thing, I've always admired that white people at 1 o'clock, they leave work to fetch their kids at school. And there's no one who says anything. And I've always said, hey, our parents like, I mean, I must be at work. And while white people take time off to go and watch their kids play cricket, do this, do that, when do we do that? So also, it was a thing of, at the back of my mind, I know that there are people who do this, who tell you that I can't come to work, I'm going to bury my cat, or my cat is missing, I'm going to go and look for my cat. So I was like, no, I'm going to say it. So I said it to my former boss, like, hey, look, Fridays, 2 o'clock, I would love to leave this place. Actually, I must leave this place. I can even arrive at 7 o'clock. I will not take my lunch. If you're obsessed with the hours I put in, it's fine. I'll arrive here at 7 o'clock so that I can make sure that at 2 o'clock I'm driving to go and fetch my daughter. But also as time grew, and sometimes there are meetings that you can't really, and then I started being self-employed, chasing business. Then you'll call me, hey, Bongs, come through, let's discuss 1, 2, 3. There's this person you must close on this deal. I'm like, I can't do it. If I do it, I'm bringing my daughter with me. So I've got, I couldn't share some of the pictures. I think I forgot them when I was sharing the pictures.
You can send them to me. You can send them to
I'm
me.
just saying, even for the book, because I do have some pictures with my daughter in the boardroom.
Brilliant.
Including board meetings of the foundation.
Man.
Including board meetings of the foundation,
Sure.
And I always say to them, this is the honorary chairperson of the session. So chair, you're going to co-chair with my
Sure.
daughter. So I would, where I think it's pressing, I'll be able to say, no, Hlons, it's fine. I'm going to come through.
Sure.
And when I come through, know that we're going to meet in a child-friendly place because I'm going to be coming with my daughter. And also with relationships, when I broke up with her mother, then you start having to look for another relationship and so on. And you just tell a lady, Mamela, 2 weekends of my life are confirmed. They are my daughters.
Sure.
If you can't accommodate that, then tough luck. It's not even open for conversations and so on. This is Bongane. Bongane is a father. I'm co-parenting with the mother of my child. And because of this, they stay on the other side of town and I stay on the other side of town. 2 weekends are confirmed to be mine. And school holidays are confirmed to be mine. So when you get into this bus, you must know that it's not going to Gracepoint. It's going to Midrand Waterfall.
Sure.
If you are comfortable with that, then cool, we can take this ride, Friends would call, sometimes I'm in the house, I'm like, hey, gents, now I'm just having peaceful time watching cartoons here.
There's a remote owner in the house.
And conversations as well. I think as they grow, you start having conversations and you start identifying where your child is going. They start talking about dinosaurs, astronomy, what. I'm like, hey, Lois, I didn't do science at school. No, Daddy, this thing. So you start having these conversations that you enjoy. I'm like, hey, gents, after I drop here on Sunday afternoon, I can call you and check where you are. Between Friday and Sunday, midday, forget about it. I'm here.
That's where you are.
That's where I am. And I want to be here. And I think that's another thing. If you want to be there, because you can have your child here for the sake of compliance, but if you don't enjoy spending time with your child and spending time with yourself, it becomes such a tantamount task to be doing.
100%.
I do it easily. Like literally I'm trying to have conversations with the mother. Can I stay full time with her? Because it happens with so easy. I enjoy it.
There's 2 things that you've mentioned that often disrupt the quality time that parents, and in this particular case, fathers, the quality time they have with their children, and that is a TV and a cell phone. How have you, what are your thoughts just around that in terms of the screen distraction? Because we are finding that it is fast becoming the one source of absent parenting. Where parents are there physically, they are present, but they're not invested.
Look, I think because of the 21st century and this, is it 4IR or 4G, whatever we call this thing, I can tell you now, my daughter, when she was 2 or 3, or 3 and 4, between 3 and 4, she got addicted to TV. And somebody would ask, what do you mean? Literally to a point that my daughter could not move away from the screen. Even at preschool or at crèche, when they had to go outside and play, my daughter will just be fussy. She doesn't want to leave the room. She wants to sit and watch cartoons, I'll arrive at the grandparents' house, and she'll be sitting there not wanting to move. And I think sometimes older people become comfortable that the child is comfortable with this. Let's give them
100%.
what they are comfortable with. And to a point that now she would even pee on herself because she doesn't want to move. She wants to watch TV. And at school, because of Fridays I would fetch it, then the teacher will say, hey, but your child is having issues here. They don't want to move away from the TV. And I was like, but what's happening here? Is there even something called being addicted to TV? Ma'am, do you hear yourself? She says, I'm telling you, your child doesn't want to, Until one time when I arrived, I found her peed on herself. She was glued to the screen, and everyone in the house was fine because of that's what she loves doing. Let's allow her to be
She's seen, she's not being heard.
Yes,
Yeah.
And I say, Papa, I'm like, no, you are wet. Like, I did. I'm like, but you are wet. And I'm like, this is what the teacher said to me. So I had to have a conversation with the grandparents and the mother and my own, because both maternal and paternal grandparents. Like, guys, this thing can happen. To a point where I think I ended up taking her for a week or two. Because grandparents, man, are grandparents.
Absolutely.
We used to get away with many things with our own grandparents. So even our own kids will get away with
100%.
many things, So I ended up taking her because I had to break the routine, So I would say, Nana, you're only going to watch TV for an hour. I know you might not know what an hour is, but I know what an hour is. So when I say it's time up, it's time up, I think on the third day, my daughter was protesting. I remember fetching her from school. And she's like, Dad, can I please go to my mother? I'm like, why? She's no, can I please go to my mother?
And the thing is, I can imagine that it's a tricky one because it's almost attractive.
Yes.
We had a very similar situation with my son's nanny, where we found him watching TV during the course of the day.
Yeah.
And we had to be very clear that, no, your priority is him.
Yes.
Everything else is secondary. Washing,
Yes.
all that other stuff is secondary. But this is the main person that you're here for. But I'm coming to a point that it's almost attractive, even for teenagers, no matter what the age, but to say, okay, my child is glued to a screen, whether it's a TV or even now, or a tablet or, all those gadgets, then I know that they are occupied and I can continue with my business, etc.
It's a bad thing for our generation. We are parenting through third parties.
Come on.
And also including the nannies themselves. And I always tell people, there's this thing of our pride about nannies, my nanny, this, my nanny. Your nannies used to be grandparents. And if kids go to grandparents, they are sure to be busy.
Yeah.
If my daughter goes to my mother's house, she's going to watch TV at some point, but she's going to go and play with the neighbor's child.
100%.
And she's going to come back dirty, and she must bath, be fed, and then she can sleep. But right now in our complexes and our new homes, no nanny thing. You wake up in the morning, you shout, Auntie, milk for the kids.
Yeah.
When you're busy on your laptop in bed, I'm this sophisticated person who's climbing the career path, blah, 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 blah. Lunchtime, you're still in bed. Auntie, some beggars there. And we think it's a nice thing,
Yeah.
So we're parenting through third parties. So including these gadgets we throw at them because of we want them not to bother us. So there's allocated time for TV. She does have a tablet. It's not connected to the internet until I connect it to the internet. It's an allocated time. After that time, we must have a conversation. After that time, she must go and play with her toys. After that time, she must go do painting or something. She must be busy. It ends there.
Brilliant.
It's not. Look, it's a script I'm trying to follow. It's not 100% followed.
Sure.
Sometimes she negotiates because they also are living at the time where kids want to negotiate their things. And also you don't want to be that person that always crushes your child. They want to negotiate and so on because of then they will never be able to challenge the world. Because whenever they rise up, you crush them whenever they rise up. So I also apply that to say, okay, I'll allow her to negotiate. What do you want to negotiate? No, Daddy, can I have an extra 30 minutes with the iPad? Okay, it's fine. You can have an extra 30 minutes. Next time she wants an extra 30 minutes or an extra 15 minutes, not today, Nana. Please jump upstairs, go and change into your PJs. I'm coming through. And then you also arrive there, you pull a book, and then you say, today I'm not going to read for you. I'm going to be you're now going to read. You must read. So you've got to be conscious of the environment that you are creating for your child. Because kids can be glued to screens. We are also glued with these Apple phones. It tells you how much time you spend on apps, and you're like, yo. And I'm hoping that in the near future, I can also rehabilitate myself on the time I spend on social media, even if it means finding a social media manager. Because there's a lot of time we waste on these gadgets. So it's not an easy one, but also as this generation, we really need to be careful of the two most dangerous things, which is one, parenting through, third parties, which is the TV and the gadgets, and also parenting through our helpers in the house.
I've heard people problematize the practice, which is more common amongst black people, of taking children to their grannies, etc., which is actually a very good practice.
It
It
is.
is such a brilliant practice because you are broadening the pool of values from which your child actually draws from.
Sure.
And they're not just limited to your trial and error. Because let's be honest, it's trial and error,
Because also in the same space, you don't have enough time for yourself. What more about them? Grandparents have got time.